Welcome to Pensari Basketball Live. This is going to be a quick hitter. I promised that we were going to do some quick lives in the morning with my morning coffee. So I hope you grab your coffee and let's get to it. First and foremost, a little bit of good news for this community that has meant so much to me. A lot of people have been asking, when are you going to get that next Brian Macon interview, Scotty's trainer? Obviously, to those of you who caught it last year, it was a very informative piece at a time which was full of a lot of questions about Scotty. So I got some good news. Right after this one, I'm going in an interview with my dude Brian Macon, and I got a whole bunch of questions I want to ask him. But if you have questions that you want to ask him, you got 30 minutes. You got 30 minutes to pitch me questions that you want him to answer. Maybe questions, and if they're questions that have not already been asked by me already in my questions list, then certainly we'll consider it and I'll pitch it to him and see if he wants to answer them. So that's the first thing. I would suggest so YouTube ad revenue has been absolutely crap, I'm going to be honest, in January. So as a special offer to this community, if you want to make sure that your question gets seen, consider a super chat. That would be super nice of you. But if you cannot afford it, I realize financial times are tough and whatnot. This is a totally impromptu live. Just pitch your questions, and if they come up and we see them while we're still doing the interview, I'll definitely make sure to get it in. Okay, so let's get on to it. What is the point of this video? Help is on the way for the Toronto Raptors. Well, the very obvious help that's on the way for the Raptors, if you watch the Raptors haplessly attempt to defend all those bigs in that gigantic team that was supposed to lose to the Toronto Raptors, the Memphis Grizzlies, Jakob Poeltl should be back. Should be back by Friday. Worst case scenario, he will be back the next game after that. He was reevaluated, and initially the reports are good in that sense. Let's check the comments here. Finally get to catch a live. Sorry, given your interest in the game of history, following so many players and teams, how did you decide to build your platform based on the Raptors? I'm a Toronto Raptor fan. I live in Toronto, love the Raptors, love Scotty Barnes, and yeah, that was a pretty simple decision. But thank you for that question. Okay, so once again, to those of you catching the live late, if you have a question for Scotty's trainer, Brian Macon, consider a super chat, and we will definitely consider your question. All right, moving on. But is that enough? Well, I don't think so. I often talk about critical mass when it comes to defense, shooting, whatever. When it comes to team basketball, you need a certain amount of defense, a certain amount of shooting, a certain amount of playmaking, a certain amount of dribble creation, a certain amount of screen setting on your roster. And it doesn't really completely matter how you do it. Obviously, there's going to be a trade-off. Sometimes a guy can defend, but he can't shoot. Sometimes a guy can shoot, but he can't defend. Consider Buddy Hield. If Buddy Hield could defend, he might be a max player, but he can't, so he's not. Trying to go the other way, the Raptors have basically traded a lot of defense for a lot of offense in the past two trades that they made. Obviously, OG Anunoby, one of the best defenders in the league, and they got back two guys who are a mixed bag defensively. I think Emmanuel Quickley offers a lot of good stuff away from scoring. Obviously, some playmaking chops, downhill gravity, deep shooting, above the break stuff, a little bit of off-ball defense and whatever, but point of attack stuff, getting posted up, stuff like that. Emmanuel Quickley does struggle in times. RJ Barrett, of course, off-ball awareness defensively. I firmly believe that the Raptors need to address their defensive woes, because I am tired of watching Scotty Barnes defend his ass off for 41 minutes and then get completely gassed and have all these short jumpers. So we need a point of attack defender. I'm going to, in this video, target 7 defenders that I believe the Raptors should target. They are not all equal. They are not all equally great defensively. They will not be all equally costly for the Toronto Raptors. But I do believe that it is a worthwhile endeavor to look at those 7 players. I'll also consider some trades that could get the Raptors a little bit closer to what they want to do. Obviously, there is a lot of talk about maintaining cap flexibility for the summer, and I fully understand that from the Raptors side, why they would want to do that. I totally get it. At the same time, you have a very unique opportunity here if you don't plan to use that cap space to potentially get draft assets, young players, etc., from teams that do want some cap space this summer, maybe want to move off a longer deal. Or In the case of teams like the Miami Heat, teams that maybe think they have a championship window or maybe a contention window in which you could offer them a slight upgrade on a piece on their roster in exchange for future draft compensation. Of course, if you're the Miami Heat, you don't really have much draft compensation to give. And the Heat are not alone. There are a ton of teams that, if you look around the league, they have absolutely zilch in the draft coffers. And this, of course, the pending ascent of the Oklahoma City Thunder and potentially Victor Wembanyama's Spurs dynasty notwithstanding, could be a good thing for the Toronto Raptors because naturally, as we saw with Kevin Garnett's Minnesota Timberwolves when they lost all those draft picks, sometimes when you lose these draft picks, your team building philosophy goes out the window. And a lot of these teams have gone all in on aging rosters. Not that I consider Devin Booker super old, but consider where the Suns might be in a couple of years from now with no draft picks until 2030. I mean, that team could really legitimately be screwed. And in that case, you do get a bit of a worsening of the league, and the Raptors are finally on the plus side, in my opinion, of future draft compensation. My question is, why stop? You can get an extra first round pick for Bruce Brown. The more the merrier. That's how I would see it. And obviously, when these stars do come up, because at some point, a team that has no draft picks, like the LA Clippers, that have gone all in on Kawhi and PG, at some point, they're going to have to just call it quits. Their stars are going to get old. They're going to have a young player on their roster that maybe wants out. And at that point, they're going to want draft picks. You want to be the team that's going to be able to offer it to them. It's really a game of musical chairs when it comes to draft picks in the NBA. So without further ado, let's talk about a few things. And also, I do want to briefly touch on, I do have to get out of here in about 9 minutes. So I do briefly want to touch on what I observed yesterday at a watch party. Pascal Siakam and the Indiana Pacers moved to 0-3. And I just want to say, to the people who are saying, Pascal sucks because he's, he got 12 points. He was stuck on 12 points for a while. And his team loses, and he didn't really do too much down the stretch. And he posted a negative box plus minus for the second straight game for the Indiana Pacers. And to a lot of Pacer fans who are like, did we give up a lot to get this guy? No, you gave up absolutely nothing to get this guy. And it's still fine, and it's going to be fine. And I'll just talk very briefly about what I think the Pacers can do with Pascal Siakam and Buddy Hield. Sorry, Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Haliburton. So let's start there. The Pacers moved to 0-3 in the quote-unquote Pascal Siakam era. And yeah, it hasn't looked great at times. Obviously, Pascal Siakam being a mid-post guy, it kind of disrupts what they like to do. If you've watched any Pacer games this year, that post-up stuff isn't really what they do. They stretch out, they spread the floor, they run in transition. It's all threes and layups for that team. I think it's very important to have a guy like Pascal Siakam for the Indiana Pacers because it offers a different wrinkle to your offense, and it does allow you maybe 14 to 20% of the possessions can be a Pascal Siakam post up, and then you run out of that, right? You work off of him, and then you have maybe some ball screens to get Tyrese open that way. I think the Pacers found out in the in-season tournament that you can't just run against everybody. At some point, someone's going to stop your transition offense, and at which point you're going to have to go in the half court. And Tyrese Haliburton, due to how speedy that release is on a jump shot, creative handle, etc., is not he's not Ja Morant. He's not going to be able to do that in the playoffs. And that's not shade on Tyrese. Obviously, he's a great player, but even great players have limitations. I think the Indiana Pacers found their stars' limitations, and I think Pascal Siakam offsets some of those limitations. So I think that's a good thing. On to our quote of the day. DeAndre Ayton, I got nothing to prove in this league. I'm a max player, and I'll continue to be a max player. Help me, God. Okay, moving on. Bruce, you know what? I don't see Bruce Brown being a part of this team going forward very long. There are a lot of players in this team that I think need to be moved. He's definitely one of them. Unlike those other two players that need to be moved who have marginal value, guys like Otto Porter, who might be able to get you a couple of, late seconds, or, Chris Boucher, who may at best be able to get you like a very distant kind of shitty first round pick in exchange for you taking on maybe a really bad contract or something of that sort. I think Bruce Brown has more value than all those guys. I think he has more value than Dennis Schroeder. Even though he makes twice as much as Dennis Schroeder, I think he has more value around the league. And he has this value because he's portable. He has this value because he's plug and play. He's not a guy that you just have to, and he's also young enough that he could be seen as, an asset. Like, he's not 32, 33, where it's like a 1-year rental, or there's no real touch wood injury history with him where it's like, okay, well, we're getting this guy, but will we have him healthy for the playoffs? No, I think if you're a championship contender, if you're a team that thinks you might be a second round team in the playoffs, and then who knows what happens from there, I think Bruce Brown is the type of guy who can take you over the edge. I think he's a guy who can kind of shift the critical mass. And I think, had the Miami Heat not made this move for Terry Rozier, I think definitely Kyle Lowry for Bruce Brown and a pick might have been something they should have considered. But they preferred Terry Rozier. They didn't have a point guard. They lost Gabe Vincent. Kyle Lowry is quote unquote washed, according to them. So they started, Kyle was really struggling. I think he's made 5 of his last 30 shots prior to getting traded. I'll be very curious to see where he ends up. All the second apron stuff does dictate a lot of teams that would otherwise be bidders for his services cannot sign him. The Phoenix Suns cannot sign him. I believe the LA Clippers, any team that's basically above that second apron cannot sign him right now. So we'll see where he goes. Maybe he goes to New York. Maybe he comes back to Toronto. I would welcome it. But yes, Bruce Brown is a hell of an asset, and he's someone that we will explore in those trades. In terms of defenders that I like, okay, Jonathan Isaac, definitely the guy on the graphic. I really like him, man. And, he is a guy with some injury history. He's 26 years old. I think that he wouldn't be the first guy who's had a whole bunch of injuries in his early 20s and then just has a perfectly healthy career. You do your own medical research, obviously very, very tight knit. The Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster have a very, very good relationship with Jeff Waltman. I don't think there would be any issues disclosing his medicals. And if you're the Orlando Magic, I get it. He's a very valuable player, but for the Raptors, he's also a very valuable player because he shores up some of your defensive issues, fits in like a glove to what you want to do defensively. I think he's a little bit better offensively than people give him credit for. And again, I like to look around the league to see guys who are playing maybe more in stagnant half court, not run gun offenses, and trying to see how might they fit into the type of offense that Darko Rajakovic wants to play. And I think Jonathan Isaac is a lot smarter than your average cookie. And I think he could really fit into a transition offense. And I think he would just fit like a glove. And what would I give up for him? I'd give up Bruce Brown straight up. I think that might be something that could help both teams. Bruce Brown, again, the Magic need shooting. So maybe, we need to look more towards the Gary Trent package, that type of thing. But I'm curious to see how valuable they find him. Tari Eason, definitely a player that I would look at for the Houston Rockets. Everyone looks at the Houston Rockets. They think Cam Whitmore, Amen Thompson, Jalen Green. But there is a young player that I really like in the Houston Rockets, and it's a somewhat undersized power forward, Tari Eason, with plus wingspans. Kind of the player that the Raptors really like. And, man, his defensive analytics are screaming to me. Xavier Tillman for the, suddenly tanking Memphis Grizzlies that we just saw the other day, absolutely abused the Raptors. Man, undersized center who Jack Armstrong called no skill, pretty much a football player out there. I'll tell you what one of his skills is. He is one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. His efficiency, getting to the rim, whatever. He's having a very, very, very down shooting year. But he is a guy who can shoot threes. And if Darko Rajakovic and Jama Malela believe in their development staff, he is 25 years old. And you know what? Who would know Xavier Tillman better than Darko Rajakovic, a guy who has spent the last 2 years trying to develop him? On the right side, you go more away from rim protectors and more towards perimeter defenders. And here I think you get into let's start at the bottom. Dalen Terry, right? He is taking a ton of threes for the Chicago Bulls. He does not play a ton of minutes, but man, defensively, I think he's special. Okay. He's taking a ton of threes. And when I say a ton of threes, 60% of his shots right now are threes. And he's shooting 20s, man. He's shooting like 22%. So you would have to really look at the mechanics on that jumper and say, is it fixable? And if it is fixable, then holy shit, you have a really good role-playing stopper on the wings. And he's really special, in my opinion. Toumani Camara may not be available. He is a second-round pick. I think he was picked 52nd overall. And I was watching the Blazers game against, and watching him guard Pascal Siakam. And I was just like, you know what? This guy is I know special when I see special in terms of defensive prospects. This he's got something for sure. And I wonder what they would want for him. Would it be like a future first or something of that sort? Are they high enough on him? Whatever, but I would look to him. Dyson Daniels may be completely untouchable for the New Orleans Pelicans. It does not mean I wouldn't try. Yes, 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 yes. You don't love his jump shooting, whatever, but I think it's come a long way. And those people who followed this channel for long enough, damn well that I have been a very, very, very big Dyson Daniels guy. Going back to last year, loved his analytics profile last year. I love him as a player, as a person, and I just think he would fit so well. And I don't know how many picks it would take. Would I give up three first round picks to get Dyson Daniels? Hell yes, I would. And if you're the New Orleans Pelicans, maybe this is not something you want to do because clearly they are a small market team that has all sorts of cap implications. They have Trey Murphy coming up. Potentially, he's extension eligible. He is not going to be cheap. I'll tell you that right now. 3D wing transition. Trey Murphy would be my ultimate get on that team, but I don't think he's available at all. They're going to have to make a choice here. Herb Jones is on a very reasonable contract. Honestly, these are targets. So you know what? If this team is super capped out, maybe the Raptors need to start planning ahead 2 years from now and prepare the big offer sheet for Dyson Daniels because I think he is just a perfect player for Darko's 0.5 offense. And of course, Herb Jones. Yeah, I'm already on record. I would drop multiple first round picks for this guy. So let's just get to some of these trades. Okay, trade number one. I'm going to go through this very quickly. Bruce Brown to the Hawks for DeAndre Hunter, AJ Griffin. Yo, I know DeAndre Hunter's got a contract. It's 4 years. He's not that bad a player, man. He's not a good player. He's not worth that money, but it's movable. He's young enough. He's 25 years old, 26 years old, I think, at this point. It is what it is, but he's evolved as a shooter. AJ Griffin is a sniper, and the Hawks do not seem to be buying on him. And I think this deal is very gettable. I don't think they're very high on either one of these players. And I think Bruce Brown helps them, gives them a convertible asset, gives them some cap flexibility this summer. Trade number two, aforementioned Jonathan Isaac. I would definitely do Gary Trent for Jonathan Isaac. I know you lose some shooting, but man, you make up for everything on defense. And Isaac's not that bad a shooter. Mikal Bridges for Bruce Brown and three first round picks. Is this wishful thinking given the Nets have pretty much put out the bat signal saying they want 5 first round picks? Would I go for the 2029 Raptors lottery protected pick and just do this? I might. I really might. I might add that 4th pick and just say, you know what, screw it. Like we have a real opportunity here to build up something here. And you have 40 games right now, or so close to 39 games, whatever, with the Raptors 38 games. And I would just I don't care about this season too much. I'm not going to cry if the Raptors miss the play-in or whatever. But what an opportunity right now to start meshing together a core that can play together going into next season, play together all off season. There is a huge benefit to doing it early. I apologize right now. There's some construction going on. I hope this does not continue through Brian's interview. I'm going to be really pissed off. Okay. Okay, let's move on to this one. Cameron Johnson. I just took 1 first round pick. Very lazy trade for me, but yeah, I'm just taking 1 first round pick off. I don't know if Cam is available, but honestly, a stretch big for the Raptors. Super smart player, moves off the ball, really great fit for them. Again, why do they do this? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know who they are. I don't know anyone in their front office. I don't know how Sean Marks is approaching this. Could they just go young? I mean, Cam Johnson's 26 years old. He kind of fits that, but at the same time, like, future draft assets are a good thing. They do have a lot of draft assets that came to them through the Phoenix Suns. Having a few more draft assets, given the fact that they want 5 first-round picks or whatever for Mikal Bridges, the fact that their season is going absolutely nowhere. They have a massive expiring this offseason of Ben Simmons. What could they combine Ben Simmons and 5 first-round picks for this offseason? I'm very curious. Herb Jones and Larry Nance Jr. for Bruce Brown and 3 first-round picks. Already pitched this trade before. I really like it, and I would consider it if I'm the Raptors. Herb Jones is at a steal at 4 years, for $54 million. He still has 3 years left on that deal. He fits exactly what the Raptors like to do, and I think he could play kind of like that small ball power forward. And I feel like there's an extra layer to his offense that has not been touched in New Orleans, and I would love it. I would love to see it. And 3 big deals. Okay, the Raptors basically ignore the bottom one. That's the same deal. My bad. But the Raptors for the Sixers, yeah, you're helping a team that's a division rival, but you're getting a first-round pick, top 3 protected, 2026. I would like the Raptors to really, really start to get out of the 2024 draft and get into the 2026 and 2025 drafts. I have a lot of faith in AJ Devonta and some of the players in that 2026 draft. I also don't mind the 2025 draft, but the 2026 is my gold mine. And I don't think the Raptors are going to be bad in 2026. So wouldn't it be great if the Raptors were like the third seed in the East in 2026? And oh, bonus, you have a whole bunch of draft picks in this draft regardless. And then that way you can basically like have 2026 whole bunch of great players come in. Plus, I mean, if the draft is great and you have high picks, those are assets. You can use them, right? So I would love that. I would love for the Raptors to pack up some picks in that draft. And boom, the last one is, this one's a big one. And this would involve taking Ben Simmons on and probably buying him out. And I don't know if the Raptors want to do this, if they would see the value in doing this, but the Nets, this is basically, do the Nets want to save their season? Because if they want to save their season, I think Dennis Schroeder, Chris Boucher, and Gary Trent could help them do that. For the Raptors, why do they do this? You eat. You don't have to buy out Ben Simmons. I mean, he could theoretically do a lot of the stuff that Jonathan Isaac is doing if he gets healthy for you. Maybe you don't want his character in your locker room. Maybe you don't want that influence in your locker room. Fine. But I think that maybe, he could also be a massive expiring this offseason. And in this deal, you get two young players that I really have a lot of faith in. Day'Ron Sharpe, Scotty's ex-teammate, Dariq Whitehead. Two Mount Verde guys. Scotty knows them both, I promise. And, the 2025 Phoenix first round pick, which I think is unprotected and I believe might be a disaster pick. So that is my episode for the day. Let us see if there are any questions, super chats, etc. Oh, we got one. Oh, it's not even a question for Brian. Okay, so to anyone out there, if you want, once this video goes live and you want to add a super sticker or whatever, a question for Brian, I'm heading into the interview with Scotty's trainer right now. So I have 20 questions for him. I don't know how many of those we're going to get through in 45 minutes, but we'll do our best. But if you have a question, definitely spam the super chat on that one. To answer this question, who do you think is our best option for a center we could get on a trade? I think Xavier Tillman is a great option. He's 25 years old. He's a hell of a defender. Per Crafted's model, he's a 95th percentile defender. He's a little bit undersized, 6'8", but man, he plays large. You felt him. Like when the Raptors played, as much as everyone wants to make a big deal out of what Jaren Jackson did to us, I think guys like John Conchar and Vince Williams Jr. also, he's a good defender too. It's funny. They just played a lot of really good defenders. Xavier Tillman's a really good defender. Vince Williams is a really good defender. Jaren Jackson's a really good defender. I think you just got the blueprint of what a really good defensive team with at least like one serviceable option looks like. Luke Kennard and Jaren Jackson were able to beat you because the rest of the players were all playing defense. It's a sustainable model. I really prioritize. I like defensive teams. I don't want to root for a Toronto Raptors team that doesn't play defense personally. I've always admired defensive teams, and I want this team to become better defensively, and it's been kind of depressing to see them play recently. Okay. Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton is an unrestricted free agent. I don't necessarily know what our odds would be of re-signing him, but why trade for him if you can just sign him outright in the summer? You clearly have cap space, right? Justin Trigini super sticker. Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you so much. Did you have a question for Brian, or do you just wanted to throw a super sticker my way? Anyways, again, the video goes live right now. I'm heading into that interview to set up the lights and all that stuff and probably wash my face or something. But yes, once this video goes live, if you have a question for Brian Macon, drop it in the comments. And if you super chat it, that'd be super appreciated. I will talk to y'all later. And I'm really looking forward to editing that video. I've been wanting to do an interview with Brian forever. Oh, great. Okay, great. Can you ask him about Scotty's dribbling stance? So how can he get lower, etc.? Okay, cool. All right, awesome. Thank you, Ram Rider. Brian Macon is Scotty Barnes' trainer. So yeah. All right, guys, take care and have a great one. And Justin, I will definitely ask that question. Cheers, guys.